So this is Parental Clinic, and we're here to learn. And it's a great opportunity to have. I think in a while we have not had this, and therefore we don't take it for granted that we can gather and learn and grow. Yeah? So the person I'm about to invite, I was listening to one of your YouTube topic, and you were talking about two kind of parents, one who is a carpenter and one who is a farmer. And I found it interesting because she says that a carpenter usually has the end in mind. There are drawings, there are dimensions taken. I mean, everything almost to the color is in advance. So when he's starting his work, he knows where he's going, and you're not going to veer him. But a farmer is totally different, because you sow that seed, though you can imagine, all you look forward is a good harvest. There's an investment you are going to do here. You know a bit of it, but a part of it is still a surprise. You know, you still can't control the weather. You can't tell the clouds today, please gather, have a meeting. Let the resolutions of that board meeting be listened to and deliver tonight. You can't tell that. So, as a parent, I'm sure, in one way or another, both of them have functioned. I looked at my life, and I saw a bit of that. There's that carpenter part of me, and there is that farmer part of me. But in one life, two of those can function at different points in seasons of life. And I believe there's so much more to learn from her. Let me just read. Dr. Caroline. Let me go to her bio. Dr. Caroline is a mom, is a therapist, is a parent, and she is also a coach. She is passionate about parenting, mental health, and quality of education. Her work focuses on curating emotional wellness and parenting programs for children and their parents. She envisions a community of caring adults committed to creating spaces for all kinds of children to thrive. She is a CEO, co-founder of Stawi Camp for Wellbeing. I checked a bit on that, and there's quite a lot I think she's doing. Lead coach at Stawi Champions and the author of Parenting with Your Heart in Mind, a practical guide to conscious, intentional, and confident parenting. I want us to put our hands together and invite our speaker tonight, Dr. Carol Chakua. Karibu sana. Yeah, enjoy. Let me put for you. Yeah, good.
Thank you very much, Daniel. It's a pleasure to meet you face to face. We have been having conversations online. It looks like I have to check there to see what I'm doing, because I don't see it on the screen. Just allow me to just sort out this first before I start talking.
Let me help you.
Oh, it's gone off. Good afternoon, everyone. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Carol Chakua, and a bit of the bio has been read, but I'm really passionate about helping adults to create spaces for children to thrive. So a little bit about my work is that I started off working with children, and for a long time it was very enjoyable. Children are very easy to influence. How many work with children here? Where are they? You live, how many live with children? Good. Yes. So for me, the word parent is not just those who have children, like biologically or by adoption, but also those who have children in their spaces because they work with them. And we all need those. Okay, so we have that. Huh? So that I can see it. Yeah, yes, it would help. Yeah. Okay, so yes, children are very easy to influence, and especially if you're talking from a teacher's perspective, or maybe someone who works with children, but even also as a parent. There's a way when they are young, it's so easy to get them to do what you want, and use a few tricks here and there, and they are so easily awed, And so that's what I used to do in the therapy room. They would come because they were having issues. They were having issues maybe at school, behavioral issues. Sometimes it wasn't even real therapy, because I've been doing this for so many years. And initially it was, Ebu enda uongee na Auntie Carol, So even with those ones, I would still use what I have been trained to do to get children to change their behaviors. But then over time, what happened is the children will go back where? To the same environments that initially were part of the reason they came for therapy. And so I began to shift and to see then how can I help parents get use the same tools that I use in the therapy room, but in a very simple way, to create the same environment so that it's not two-sided. I mean, those of us who live with children know that sometimes you go and see how your child is behaving in school and you're like, huyo ni mtoto wa nani? My friend one day, he told me she went and watched her son come in with her bag, walk in so humbly and put the bag where the hook is and then go and sit. And she was like, what have you done with my son? Okay, but there's a certain environment that is created in school. Okay, and what we have done mostly is we have separated those two environments and say this is the teacher's work and this is the parent's work. What that has done, because sometimes even our children will come and say, no, not that way, teacher said this. So over time, our confidence as parents has really been worn down. Worn down because we feel like there's just a way those people have a better way with our children, they influence them better, but we don't know what that's doing for us. It's actually taking away our confidence slowly, without us even knowing, to the point where now when they become teenagers, we are almost convinced that there's just nothing we can do. And then you see the way they start changing as they become older, from a loving 5-year-old who just looks at you with those puppy dog eyes and says yes to everything you say, to a 9-year-old who begins, you don't want to believe that was an eye roll, but really they rolled their eyes at you. And then to a teenager who just looks at you and without even saying anything, the face is speaking 1,000 things in terms of how that's not smart, but they're not telling you, and I'm using very nice words right now, but that's not the words they would use, even with their look. And fighting back, especially at that teenage stage, fighting back because Google says this, and mommy says this, and daddy says this. But in Google, there's all this. At the click of a button, our children have 1,150 million teachers. Okay? And those 150 million teachers are telling them 150 million different messages. And they went out there to type one. So they also know where to look for information nowadays. So with 150 million teachers, and having just felt that sense of waning confidence over the years, by the time they get to teenage, we really are at a loss. We don't know. And then sasa pia sisi, we start going online to look for information. And then again, we get another 150 million teachers. And these 150 million teachers are telling us things that we look and we're like, where do I even start? Okay? So again, because of living in this information, we call it the fourth revolution, too much information coming at us. Most of that information is telling us what we are doing wrong. Okay? It's telling us about this ideal situation where maybe the mom is stay at home, and so for you to spend time with your children, there's all these wonderful activities, do it yourself things, and having so much fun, and they're posting all these things they're doing with their children, and you're looking, you're like, I wish I could just drop my job so that I can do these things. So the more all this information is coming at us, the more we feel guilty, we feel unable, we feel inadequate. And so in our spaces as parents in this day and age, we have so much guilt that we bring into this space, okay? And for me, what I do with parents is to bring us all to a place of being conscious about where we are at, being real about where we are at, being realistic about, okay, that's what that person is doing and it's working for them. But this is the situation I am, hapa ndio nimejipata. And it doesn't mean that being where I am now, because it's not the ideal, doesn't mean that there are no tools for where I am. So I put in parents' hands a toolbox with just many tools they can pick from the different stages of their parenting. And for me also, from my background as a person of faith, also just really leaning back to God, the parent, who really is the ultimate parent. And if we allow ourselves, there's so much we will learn about God, and we can receive from Him. In fact, we just become a vessel through which He parents our children, because He's the one who sees where they are going. Okay, we don't. In our little finite mind, we don't see where they are going. But He sees. He saw even before He put them in our wombs. Okay? And therefore, one of the struggles we have also in our parenting is our perception of God, our struggles with our own faith, okay? And that's, so I do programs, long-term programs, like I have a 12-week session. I have a book, which I will make sure I run down to the car and bring before you people disappear. And then I also do camps for children. And when I do the camps for children, I still do the camps, I still work with parents. So for me, my approach is holistic in terms of, at one point, I just used to deal with children, and I realized it's parents who really needed those skills. Then I sort of dropped the children and I went to parents, and I worked with parents, and most of the parents I'm working with now told me, okay, we've had you, kabisa tumekusikia, now bring the children back. And so Stawi Camp really is sort of a way that everything has been looped in together. And if we have time, we'll talk about it. I'll be mentioning it a little bit as we go. But I would like us to start with an exercise. I'm so sorry. So presence, talking to her, be real to the teenagers, open communication, my presence, spending time with her, being firm with communicating, prayer, taking it slowly, teenage handling challenges, social media platform controls in teenagers, create a free platform, I guess, where they can express their views and ideas, prayer, taking it slowly, challenging my kids to take control of their lives, explaining to them what being responsible is about, question and answer method, exposure to different environments. And I trust there is more. I think there was a second page. Okay, so it's very nice to be able to just project this up here, because one of the things we do is we feel like we are the only ones going through an issue when it comes to parenting. And then that also holds us back from actually looking for help or seeking help. So I just like to I like to give this exercise to just do a quick check on where we are at. How do I balance love and discipline? Do we feel like that's a dilemma for us? Okay, how can I be firm and kind? Most parents ask me, how can I be firm but kind? And I say, don't put but there. You can be firm and you can be kind. They're not opposites. They're not fighting against each other. Okay, how can I be a present parent? We already saw that in your answers. How can I be a voice of influence with so many other competing voices? Do we feel that way? Okay, especially because when we look at the percentage of time we spend with our children, it's very minimal compared to all these other voices they are hearing. Am I raising a softie son? I get that a lot. And there's always a sort of tug of war between the mom and the dad. You're making this one a softie, and you need to toughen them up. So it's a valid question, okay? It's a valid question. Why? Because you're also coming from a background where you know what it is to raise a boy and to be a man, okay? And you're like, the way things are going here, so it's a valid question. Does it have one answer? No, it's something for let's reason together, okay? Discipline is a big one. I also saw it a lot in the answers that Daniel shared. Then, because of all these questions, we get into a place of second-guessing ourselves. We get into a place of guilt tripping. Am I too hard on my children? Okay? You don't even know what is hard on our children these days, because it's like they're falling apart so easily. Okay? Am I being too hard on them? Or am I being too easy on them? Sometimes they're like, hey, my mom would never have let me get away with this. And now I'm letting, and so again, what I'm trying to build is a case for why do we feel so conflicted. There's so much perplexity around parenting. It's not as easy as we wish it would be, okay? Am I doing the right thing in this moment? When now I have to transfer this child because they're struggling, so I have to get another school. Am I doing the right thing? Am I making the right decision? What message am I sending to this child when I move them to another school? And that's just one decision. So many other things that we feel, am I doing the right thing by moving to this neighborhood, okay? Am I ruining my children? And that could go both ways. Am I ruining them by being too hard on them? There's all these statistics about childhood trauma, right? We also went through some things, and we know that maybe we are struggling with them. And that's the things we're struggling with right now are because of how we were brought up. We have to be real about those spaces. And so we are like, then what's the right thing to do here? Or am I ruining my children by giving them too much? Okay, by allowing the nanny to wake them up in the morning. Those kids who wake up and then they're just like this. They're still asleep. They're like this. And in your mind, you're just like, this would never happen in our home. But that's where our children are. That's the reality we are in, okay? And it's the things we tell ourselves when we see that really determine our levels of confidence. Will my child turn out right? Do we ask that when you see them struggle? When you see them not getting along with their siblings? When you see them go to school and come back and they cry about this one told me this and therefore I'm sad? Or when you get a report that they're the ones who've been bullying, okay? Will my child turn out right? Okay, when we discover they haven't done homework for 2 weeks and they've been telling you straight first, yes, I've done my homework. Yes, I've done. And then now the teacher sends a message. Your child hasn't done homework for 2 weeks. Will my child turn out right, or they end up being a liar or get into trouble? So those are real issues that we are dealing with every day. Will my child be okay without me? Okay, we wonder about that. All right? And then we have this complex perplexity here. Honey, when you grow up, I want you to be assertive, independent, and strong-willed. But while you're a kid, I want you to be passive, pliable and obedient. Because we want our children to be these people who stand up, who speak out. We even tell them, no, you go back to school and tell the teacher this and that and that. If you don't like it, then they go and they tell, and then the teacher says no, they come back to, okay, you go back and so that, then they try that on us. And you're like, no, So it's a very conflicting message, okay? But who are they going to practice it on if it's not with us? We have a belief system at the back of our minds that speaking up and speaking out is disrespect, it is rude, because that's how we were treated when we spoke up and spoke out. So again, another perplexity, very, very conflicting space, okay? So I want us to breathe in. I'm really glad that you started with leading us in this exercise, so I'm just flowing with it, because these things can begin to just make us feel anxious. I'm painting this not very positive picture, but it's the reality. So for me, my breathing in is usually as you breathe out the anxiety, and breathe out anything that is making you uncomfortable, whether it is you're feeling a sense of panic, we're feeling a sense of confusion. And as you breathe in, what would you like to breathe in into that space? Confidence, clarity, peace? What would you like to invite? You are in good company. We are all going through this together, okay? We just need to remember that there's no such thing as a perfect parent. Each one of us here is a real parent, going through real issues, asking real questions. We have to remember that every one of us here was raised by imperfect parents, and accept ourselves for the imperfect parents that we are, knowing we actually have a perfect parent we can draw from, okay? And that is God, the parent. We need to remember that great parents are not born, they become, and becoming is a process. So I would really like, as we breathe in, let's breathe in a few things of the things we want to become, or we are becoming, not even we want to become. Then I want us to see it as a process. Who are you becoming? Could you, for those who are writing, I am becoming, please put it, please enter what it is that you are becoming. And you do it with a lot of compassion for yourself, that you are not perfect, but you can make one step today towards becoming that person. And if tomorrow you take 2 steps back, we don't panic. We go back again and do and keep doing, and we keep building the habits that we need to become. So I was talking a little bit about myself when we were setting up, so I won't spend a lot of time here. But I'm that auntie in the real African sense that all my siblings and my friends send their children to me. So I have one son, but I have so many other children that and they have really been part of my growing in this space, in the work that I do, without me feeling the pressure of doing it perfectly. So they've been my guinea pigs for a long time. So I'm that in-house therapist where my friends will call me in their spaces of stuck. So they've resorted to putting voice notes with long stories about what's going on with them. But I gain a lot of skills, because it throws me back into praying, into looking for more information to support them. I also teach at the university. I teach psychology, so I also am in that space of mentoring young adults. It's also just a whole different space when it comes to young adults, and just understanding the generation that they are now. I've worked as a therapist, a parent coach, and now we have launched Sawi Camp for Wellbeing. One of the things I've discovered in my work is that not every child who is brought to me needs to be brought to me. Not every child who is sent to therapy needs to be in therapy. What we need is those who are taking care of children to be equipped, to be given tools that will raise their confidence. It's all about raising your confidence. So that even when you're asking, am I ruining my child? It may seem like you're ruining your child, but you're like, you know what? We will re-nini uko mbele. You know, we will repair uko mbele, because I also know how to repair. I am also skilled in how to repair if I have messed up. So it's not like you're just doing the wrong thing and then you're saying we'll sort it out uko mbele. Even you're doing, you may not be clear, but you also know that you've been cultivating the right environment as a farmer. You've been cultivating, so there are things that have taken root. And so if there's pruning that needs to be done, it will be done. If there's weeding that needs to be done, it will be done. And I try as much as possible to give tools that are simple, to give tools that are practical, and that are relatable in our everyday experiences. However, I usually say that the tools and the strategies will come later. So what comes first? One of the things I'm really passionate about is giving information, the why behind the what. So your child has been lying, they're constantly lying. Your child has been bullying, they're constantly bullying. Now you need help. You need that child to be helped or supported. So when you come to me, I'm like, I listen, I empathize. I'm like, you're in good company, because I have experienced that, and I have had parents who also have experienced that, okay? So we tick that box of the what, and then we step back, and I give you information about the why. There is such power in understanding the why, because when we understand the why, then we are in a better position to actually fix the roots, cause, okay? We start from the root. And therefore, for the 12 weeks I'll be with you, maybe the behavior will not change, but you will be so much more confident because you understand where it's coming from. And as a farmer, as much as the plants have not sprouted, you know that they will sprout because you're continuing to do the work. And that's why, for me, the why becomes the most important. So what do you see in this picture? Can you tell me about that picture? What do you see? A what? A shark fish. Okay. So where is the shark? Above. And what do you see above as well? It's storm, eh? It's stormy. What do you see below? Is it still a shark? There's calmness and there's a fish. Okay? It's a goldfish. All right? So most of the time with our children's behavior, we usually deal with them at the shark stage. It's stormy and we see the shark. And what do? You attack the shark. You fix the shark. How do we approach the shark? With fujo, right? With all the weapons of destruction that we need to destroy. And we are like, this behavior must be nipped in the bud. It must go. So what we do in Stawi is to help you begin to realize that beneath the shark behavior in the stormy space, there's a goldfish. How many have experienced the goldfish in our children? You know, yes, all of us have. There's a goldfish, okay? That's the very core of who our children are, with very fundamental needs that need to be met. And if we're able to step back and understand those needs and start meeting those needs, it's not just at being nice. You know, we talk nowadays a lot about gentle parenting and all that, and we're like, what is gentle parenting? I mean, but whatever you want to call it, I call it conscious parenting, okay? Because it's about going beyond the behavior and trying to understand. This information was also only the preserve of teachers and therapists and all that. But I really believe that this information needs to get to the masses, okay? Because our parents also struggled. Although there were things in their environment that made parenting easier, and we'll talk about that. So the why behind the what is really about helping you to uncover the why, the needs of the goldfish. And when we meet the needs of the goldfish, it gets calmer over time. The other why we talk about is the why that has to do with you, okay? You, the parent. Because if you have a cup here, most of the time in our cups, okay, when children misbehave, they knock, they trigger what's in our cup. So whatever comes out is what will spill into the environment and what will determine the outcomes eventually for the behavior. The immediate outcome might be the behavior stops immediately because of how you showed up, because of the look, because of the chapa, because of the 2-hour lecture, okay? But that behavior stops immediately, and that's why we refer to as the carpenter parenting, where you want to fix all the time. But then have you really taken time to work on yourself and ask yourself, why does my child's behavior trigger me so much? Sometimes really after that 2-hour rant or 2-hour lecture, you think about it and you are like, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. We've all had those moments where our own issues have spilled into our children's environment. And even though they misbehaved, how we reacted was way more than we should have. And we want to be calmer parents. We want to be parents who pour wisdom, that our cups have wisdom in them. Our cups have peace and calmness. But most of the time, our cups have fear, they have anxiety, they have all those questions. He's turning out like, that person in the village from their home. Persistent problems, okay? He's turning out like my family's, or the other side of the family, or this side of the family. He's going to, this is going, I know where this is leading, okay? This also happened to me, and I got into a lot of trouble. So I make sure that I fix it now so that they also don't get into trouble. In our cups, there's a lot of fear, anxiety, unbelief, lack of confidence, second guessing, that when our children misbehave, it pours out, and that's what they soak in. So we take time, like the book that I have is really just about inviting you to check, what is the state of my heart? It's really borrowed from, the foundation of scripture is trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own insight and understanding. There's a lot of insight and understanding in our hearts that has very little to do with trusting God, okay? And for us to be able to acknowledge Him and to Him to remove obstacles. That's what the Amplified Version says. He removes the parenting obstacles as we learn to figure out what is the insight and understanding in our cups or in our hearts, okay? So at Stawi, we help you get introspective. It's the longer route, I will tell you for sure. It's not the easy fixing route, but the long route is usually the shorter route in the long run. That's what I have discovered. The long route becomes the shorter because you're not in the same cycle, okay? It's also very uncomfortable, the long route, because it goes against the instinct of what other people expect you to do, of what other people are telling us to do. So I love this quote. If parenting had a GPS, it would mostly read, recalibrating. It's okay. Imagine it's okay to recalibrate. Please give yourself permission to recalibrate. Even though this advice came from the most respected person and their children have turned out a certain way, that is their path. It's okay to recalibrate. It's okay to step back and ask, what can I do differently? So, we're talking about intentional parenting in the 21st century, not just intentional parenting, okay? Because we really have to look at the realities of 21st century parenting. And some of the synonyms when I searched for the word intentional is deliberate, calculated, conscious, purposeful. Okay? So it's just really about being deliberate, calculated, conscious, purposeful. But for me, the word that really pulls out for me is conscious. Okay? Parenting consciously. So I was going through the results that for the survey that you answered. I mean, I saw so much wisdom and resource that you already have in the things that you are doing. Okay, in the spending time with your children, the activities you're involved in just being deliberate, in having devotional time with our children. Those are amazing things. And sometimes it's just good to step back and pat ourselves on the back that we are actually doing a lot. However, what stops us is that lack of confidence, is that eyes scattering everywhere and just seeing how the world is changing so fast and wondering, am I even equipped for it? Are these children equipped for it? So parenting consciously for me looks like this, the things I'm going to tell you. Okay? So what does that, the first tool in parenting consciously is conscious understanding of 21st century children, also known as, what do we call them? Children of nowadays. Children of nowadays. And then we just shake our heads and we don't say anything else. Okay? So we have to have not just an understanding, not just a general understanding. You know, the one that we sit and we say, hey, aki hawa watoto. That is not conscious understanding. So I want to just invite us into a place of being more conscious of what is going on with these children. And because we always feel like our children are less resilient, they are more fragile than we were. Okay? And that's a discussion that can take 2 hours. I've tried. I used to think that I would ask that question, and when we have 5 minutes and we move on. Then I said, I'm not going to be asking that question. I'm just going to be putting there, but I want you to reflect on it, because there's so many answers that come out of this. There's the yes, and there's no, and there's so many reasons why. But the general view is that our children are different. The general view is that sometimes it seems like they fall apart too easily. Sometimes it feels like the things that they should just snap out of, they're not snapping out of them. And then they are forever spending time talking about their feelings and their emotions. And it's a very foreign space for us. It's just a foreign space. It's not something that we are used to, because that's not how we were raised. Most of us, some of us could have. So what is different then? Let's have a conscious understanding of children of nowadays. One, we're raising them in a place with less community focus. And that's a reality, okay? It's a reality not because we just don't like being around people, but because in this world, with the economic realities, there's just got to be a way we have to panga ourselves. And that kind of pangaing sometimes takes us away from the luxury of having community around us and being able to just, drop your kids at your sister's or your parents so that you can go and do other things. So less community focus. But the reality is that we are wired for connection. We are wired for relationship. That's how God ordained it. That's how God designed it. And connection is said to be the mother's milk of mental health. Okay? Without those kinds of connections, we begin to fall apart. So one of the reasons we are falling apart is because of lack of those connections. And the good news is that we can consciously commit to those connections. We'll talk about how we can do that, build those connections in terms of community. So what has happened? In its place, what do we have? Because, nature doesn't like a vacuum, okay? So community has to be there. So which community is there now? The global village, okay? The global village has taken up that space, but whereas the other community, you used to have the Sunday school teacher, the coach, the math teacher, the English teacher, the auntie and uncle, pretty much all of us would speak the same language. You know, the adults in our space would speak the same language. The difference here is that this global community is like I said, 150 million voices, all speaking different things, okay? We've talked about the guilt, very difficult to balance between work and family, and just really, and I saw that also in your answers, just the challenge of time. Fear, we fear we will traumatize our children because there's all this information about trauma. Like that's a really big thing right now. And people coming out and telling stories of how they were brought up and how they were brought up, how it has affected them. And you're like, it looks like my child is taking that direction. So it's a lot of fear. We fear disasters. We fear our children will kidnap. Real fears, valid fears, okay? So we have to protect them. Of course, coronavirus. I need to remove this one now because we are past that. But then, you know, there's a level of protection. I mean, we are teaching our children about safe touch, okay? And about saying no to being hugged. Like who would have thought those are the things that we'll be teaching our children now? But the realities are that people have taken advantage of that, okay? So even me, I find that just strange, okay? Just trying to there's a girl who actually told me, no, you can't hug me. And I was like, wow. And she was playing with my niece, so I was happy hugging my niece. Then I went to her, she was like, no, I don't hug. I was like, wow, the mother has done quite a job, or the father, I don't know. And you know, if you're not conscious, you might start fighting with rejection. You're like, oh, you know, so we take it personally. So anyway, changing family structures, we all are aware, you know, single parent families, co-parenting situations, separation, divorce, leaving your children with your parents so that you can pursue other interests economically, so that you can actually take care of them. Those are the realities we have. Changing family structures. We don't even want to talk about the gay, same-sex families and all that. That's just a topic for another day. What I've just talked about are things that we are aware of. And we're like, yeah, this is happening. But I want to just share with you some of the things that we may not be aware of. Like I said, I like to give parents information they may not have in very simple ways to just help you understand the why. So let's go into that a little bit. This generation, these children of nowadays, they're the first generation to consume disasters live, okay? We never had to experience disasters as they are happening. I don't even know if we are aware what a big change that is. When maandamano is happening, it is live, people are posting as it is happening, okay? An accident happened 15 minutes ago. It is all over the news, unfortunately, with bodies strewn all over. This is the first generation to consume. I don't know if you grew up in my times. Me, I remember in 1982. Please do not calculate my age. But there was a coup. There was, I don't know, for those who are there, there was a coup. And we had, there was a coup. And by the time that news got to us, of course I was little, so of course it was snippets of, I didn't really understand until much later. But what just, in the simplest way, the way I understood it is, mtu alitoa Moi kwa kiti, alafu wakapigana, lakini wamerudisha Moi kwa kiti. And it was as simple as that, as in the seat. Like for me, that's what I visualized. There was no danger, there was no fear, there was no anxiety, but I remember some jets passing over our area that day. But then even when they were passing, I didn't know. The connection was done later. So by the end of the day, I think it had been sorted. I don't remember, but I think it was a very short. what's my point? We had opportunity to, we didn't have opportunity to have negativity coming at us live, pa, 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 one after another. And the reality is, you and I, as adult as we are, those things stress us out without even us knowing. So the best way we do it is talking about it, or forwarding it to others in the presence of our children. So for them, it's even double confusing. Why? Because one of the things, again, a why behind the what that I need you to understand is that the brain doesn't fully develop until after 25. The part of the brain that is responsible for decision making, for processing difficult things, for problem solving, for empathy, for even managing emotions, that part of the brain is the one that still is developing in our children and doesn't fully develop until they're 25. Some neuroscientists are now even saying 32. Others are even saying it never fully develops. So how many have children who are 25 here? Show of hands. All right, one, okay? Pat on the back. But yeah, usually, and I think most of the parents that I talk to, yeah, you get that 1%. You get that one parent, okay? What's my point? That whatever is coming at our children is way more than they can handle. Because even us, we are not handling it well. So by the time we see misbehavior, it could be just kichwa ngumu, we know. It could be just them just giving us a hard time. But we have to step back and ask what else is going on. Okay? They are the first generation to do that. And they're not equipped to process. And that's why what they do, and so we have negative news at our fingertips. So they're naturally pessimistic. And I don't know how many of you have experienced your children just being negative day in, day out. Today we have a math test. I just know I'm going to fail. Okay? Today was the worst day ever. They just spew out negativity. Okay? And naturally, we are wired to be negative, even you and I. Being negative comes more naturally to us than being positive. Now, there's a reason behind that. During the days of our ancestors, they needed to be negative so that they can sense danger, real danger. Okay, so that's how we are wired. The brain is more tend towards seeing what is wrong so that it can prepare you to do what? To do those things of fight, flight, or freeze. Okay? So because we are wired for negativity, it's so much easier to go there. So on top of that, our children are doing what? Have all this negativity coming at their side. No wonder. They will just tell you straight up, today was the worst day ever. And you do not want me. We don't talk negative things in this house. So that's what we do. So they need to be trained to begin to focus on what is positive. Let's put that aside. You need to be trained. Okay? It's work. It's a skill. Okay? And until we have it, we are not really doing service to our children by trying to get them to be positive. All right? Now, remember the environment we are talking about that is so negative. Maybe many of us went through negative situations as we were growing up. Granted, some of us walked 12 kilometers to school and 12 kilometers back. And we only had one meal. And we ran all the way, had school, and then ran all the way back. And then you got home, and there were siblings waiting. So first of all, you wash uniform for everyone, and then you start thinking about food, okay? Okay, maybe not all of us here. I'm seeing some people look at me like, is that a life really? But there are people. Because again, I've been in this space for a long time, okay? There are many people. I walked quite a number of kilometers to school every day, okay? So because of that, sometimes it didn't matter what was going on at home and how difficult the situations were. The fact that you walked the fact that you connected with nature, the fact that the places you walked were safe, the fact that you met sijui which mzee who greeted you and put their hand as a blessing on your head and talked to you and asked you where mommy, how home things are at home. All those things. The fact that there was community. The fact that there was that one teacher who just really believed in you, even if parents were not believing in you. Because of all that, just the simple fact that you connected with nature every day helped manage your stress levels. And I want us to remember that, even as we are thinking about how to support our children who we are raising in concrete jungles. Concrete jungles on top of the negativity they are getting is just, it keeps stressing them both. So they are always on stress mode. They are always on alert mode, and we don't know. They snap at each other. They are so vicious with each other. Sometimes they use these words, you're like, me, I know they don't teach you that in Sunday school, okay? Okay, so the reality is we need to step back and understand that. Not that I'm asking we move from our concrete jungles, because we have no choice. I live in one myself, okay? The reality is that there is one day in a week or 2 days in a month that we can get out into nature and go to the Arboretum and go to Karura Forest or walk in our neighborhood just so that we can experience that, because that's what God put it out there for us, because we need to connect with nature. We need to breathe fresh air. We need to touch grass. We need to play out there, okay? So it's important. That's why community is important.